Just because Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead doesn't mean the Iranian government is dead. Iran is not a Venezuela. Venezuela was a one-man dictatorship. Iran is not.
How long you see this conflict panning out?
Everything depends on Trump.
Do you see American boots on ground in Iran?
A longer breathing space for Iran in the wrong hands, maybe the IRGC, would lead to an escalated pursuit of the nuclear weapon.
I'm Yashwal, and we know what is happening right now in the Middle East, and perhaps the situation is also evolving very thick and fast. But the biggest update right now is that Ali Khamenei has been killed in the Israeli-US strikes on Iran. Big developments happening. Situation is moving thick and fast. The entire Middle Eastern landscape seems like a furnace right now, because what it seems that largely it has gone beyond just a trilateral confrontation, and probably it's evolving into something bigger. And to talk more on it, I've been joined by Mr. Srijan Pal Singh. So thank you so much for joining us here on Times Now. So as I mentioned, the situation is evolving very fast, and it's a leader, Ali Khamenei, has been killed. That is the biggest update as of now. United States has made it very clear their aim is to change the regime. The regime, the person at the helm has been killed. Where do you see this war heading now from here, or from this point?
Right. Thank you for having me on your channel. And now, one thing one has to be very clear at the onset. Iran is not a Venezuela. Venezuela was a one-man dictatorship. Iran is not. Iran is a very solid, well-defined, multi-layered government. There are multiple bodies, multiple people, there are contingencies, there are hundreds of people who can potentially succeed Ali Khamenei. So just because Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead doesn't mean the Iranian government is dead or the regime is going to fall. That is not going to happen. In fact, Ali Khamenei himself is an 80-plus-year-old person he was. And he was anticipating such a situation where he either, he dies out of natural reasons, or is taken out, or is captured. In the past few months, there's been a lot of effort by the Iranian government to have a succession plan. And the succession plan is well defined in the constitution of Iran, which is right now Iran is making a temporary leadership council, which will include their chief justice, which will include the president, and which will also include a jurist from the Guardian Council, which is like a religious body. So these three people would now form a temporary government. This will be like an executive council. And then there's a council of, which is called Assembly of Experts, which are 88 clerics, mostly religious clerics, who will then decide. In the meantime, they will keep deciding who is going to be the next supreme leader. This all process will not is well defined. It will not take a lot of time. And in the next few days, we will hear about a new supreme leader. So Iran has not fallen into chaos. Then this is one layer. Then there's another layer, which is the IRGC, which is the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Council. Now, the Revolutionary Guards are like an elite military force of Iran, which is about 100,000 personnel. These are the best of the soldiers of Iran. And they have a sort of a parallel body. There is a chance that while the constitutional process is one way, the other way could be that the Revolutionary Guards might form a military dictatorship, which is actually a worse nightmare than Ali Khamenei was. The third possibility is that Iran might actually will go the Iraq way, where in the absence of the vacuum of Saddam, what happened also so in Libya, where Gaddafi was ousted, what happened there was that the whole country fell into sectarian groups. The whole country was divided, and Iran is full of different kind of tribes and sects. And they will all form and they'll keep conflicting with each other, which is actually the worst, because what happened in Iraq eventually was ISIS was formed. So we have a whole plethora of possibilities, but Iran right now, it looks like they are going through the regular constitutional process.
So you're saying that there is a possibility, and perhaps a situation will arrive. There will be a situation. It will be clerics versus the IRGC.
This is a possibility. If the IRGC decides that we are going to form a military dictatorship, I don't think the clerics will be able to stop them. Because the real power of the clerics come from two sides. One is the IRGC itself, which is a military power, and the other is the something which are called bazaris in Iran, which are the trading community. These are basically traders of Iran, from shops to large trading companies they operate. So the bazaris are the ones who give the economic influence. The IRGC gives them the military influence. Now, if the IRGC is out and openly against the clerics can't resist them. The bazaris, if you remember, a month ago, the bazaris were the ones who were doing a lot of revolution against the
They
clerics themselves.
started basically the
Yes.
28th of December protest.
Yes, the December protest started with that only. So both the pillars which support the clerical government structure in that event would be decimated. But right now, the IRGC has given no signal of a military dictatorship or a military coup. One should also remember the IRGC chief has also been killed
Yeah.
in the same set of attacks.
So right now, when this entire campaign began of the United States and Israel, largely we were calling it US-Israel versus Iran war. But what Iran has done right now is they're targeting multiple bases across Middle East, US bases. He's also targeting friendly nations, which largely historically have been remain either they were mediators or like Dubai, we've seen, and multiple other places also. So, do you think this war has gone beyond the gambit of being just a war between three nations to a larger Middle Eastern war?
Right. So one has to look at from the perspective of Iran here. There is in a direct conflict, short conflict or long conflict or any other model in the middle, there is no way Iran can deter the combined strength of Israel and United States. I mean, no,
Absolutely.
that's it's impossible. So there are two options Iran has. One is to surrender to Trump's terms, which is to basically give up its nuclear and long-range missile program. Probably Trump will ask for international mediators or even US mediators on Iranian soil with free access to all Iranian facilities. Trump will eventually architecture and engineer a sort of a coup within the government over years, and he's basically committed to bringing down the regime. That's one path. That's a temporary relief, but it's going to cost them big in the long run. The other path is to truly internationalize and expand this conflict, which is to involve all nations from which US is operating its forward air bases. So all these countries you're saying, whether it's Bahrain or UAE or it's Jordan or Saudi Arabia, all of these countries are giving access to their air bases for US to operate missions inside Iran. So there is a sort of there's a stake skin in the game which these countries also have in this conflict. The country which has been spared, interestingly, is Oman. Oman has not been attacked because Oman has a long-standing relation with Iran, and Oman does not have a forward airbase
Yeah.
from which US is attacking Iran. So Iran has chosen who it's not an indiscriminate targeting. They've chosen their targets. Now, the interesting thing which Iran is doing out of this is because this has now become an international topic. A city like, say, Dubai, when it's targeted, Dubai is 90% expats, probably more than 90% from all over the world. So now it's an international thing where all countries are trying to evacuate their people, save their people, protect their people. And there's a pressure on United States to ensure that the safety of these international crowd and international experts all over the place, the expats, is a responsibility of United States to save them. So the other angle to that is Trump has not taken a congressional approval on this,
Yeah.
which is, as per the United States Constitution, a president can attack a country only after the Congress, which is like their Lok Sabha, approves it. Now, Trump has not gone through that route, and that's why Democrats, including Kamala Harris, have been talking negatively about this war, that this is an
Yeah, I know. I think
extrajudicial war.
like
So
60 days to.
yeah, exactly. So now, if international people are under pressure and foreign governments are going to say that this conflict has to be resolved because my people are in danger, then Trump would be under pressure by the Congress to
Yeah.
come to a clean conclusion, or at least if not a full stop, but at least a comma to this war, and will give Iran a breathing space, which has lost its supreme leader, which has lost its IRGC chief, which has rather taken by surprise on the first hour of the war. So Iran needs that breathing space. Giving breathing space to Iran is also dangerous because a longer breathing space for Iran in the wrong hands, maybe the IRGC, would lead to an escalated pursuit of the nuclear weapon. So Iran has that sort of, it's very close to its nuclear weapon. We all acknowledge it. We're talking about it a long time. So that is also a risk which is going to run. So it's a very interesting, everything depends on Trump, essentially, here. and how Trump is able to manage his home front, which is the Congress, and is able to manage his military and remain in a position where he has not only the upper hand, but also he has a morally stronger case than Iran has.
Mr. Singh, now I want to divert this conversation a bit, and I just want to talk about the Iranians' missiles arsenal. Because we've seen Khamenei is down now, and a lot of IRGC top guns have also been killed in this entire campaign. But one thing which hasn't stopped is the ballistic missile rain or missile rain which Iran is doing across the region.
Correct.
Now, yours expertise is also in this. You've worked with Dr. Kalam also very closely. Do you think in this entire confrontation, a new war paradigm will be established where perhaps having stealth fighters like F-35 or strategic B-2 bombers won't be that much of relevance in a far away war when it comes to equipments like missiles and drones? And do you think Dr. Kalam would have imagined that ballistic missiles will become so important part of the modern day warfare?
No, absolutely. And he did realize that ballistic missiles are a very important part of any modern day warfare, especially when it comes to a strong defensive posturing, a deterrent sort of a posturing. And that's why he worked on five parallel missiles in 1980s. And we have Agni and Prithvi and so many other, the best missiles in the world India has. So we were wise enough to realize this quite early in the day that missiles would be a thing of the future. Now, coming to Iran, if you talk about that, then Iran has a very, very well developed missile, and not just missile, but also drones.
Yeah,
It's very interesting how they have mixed the usage of missiles and drones. So, for example, the Iron Dome of Israel is made for anti-missile and
yeah,
up till supersonic, but
yeah,
it is not that effective when drones come in, because drones can come as a swarm. So they can come
yeah.
like multiple drones, and they can overload the radar system, and that's what they are doing. So they overload a missile defense shield with a swarm of drones, and then when it's overloaded, they hit it with missiles. So that is something which Iran has perfected in a way, and it's something which we saw last year also, and we are seeing this year also, that Iran's missile technology combined with its drone power is quite a formidable force. You're challenging the world's biggest military, and by far the biggest military, and you are still sort of holding off as a combatant. That's quite a mark of strength to your military. Now, Iran's military program, Iran's missile program started during the Saddam Hussein versus Iraq-Iran war, when Saddam launched a whole bunch of Scud missiles at Iran, and Iran then started developing its own missile program to combat and counter Saddam's missiles, and re-engineered Scud missiles into a whole series of missile, the basically the Shahab missile series. So they were all liquid fueled. Shahab, eventually Shahab 1, 2, 3
Yeah.
all came. Shahab missiles of Iran, they are relatively slower, but they can go up to 2000 kilometers. But the shining jewel of the Iranian missile arsenal is Fatah series. The Fatah series are hypersonic missiles. Now, hypersonic missiles are extremely fast. They can go up to Mach 10, 12, something of that range. Now, one Mach is about the speed of sound, which is 1200 kilometers per hour. So you can multiply that and you'll get some 15,000 kilometers per hour speed. And these Fatah missiles are difficult for Israel's Iron Dome, United States third missile defense system, or the Arrow missile system, or the David Sling to be able to counter. And we saw that last year, and we will probably see it this year if the conflict escalates. So their Fatah missiles have been quite a success. Then they are building the longer range missile like the Ghadr series, the Sejal series, which will all be in the range of 3,000 kilometers. Now, which makes Europe, almost the entirety of Europe, or at least more than half of it, within the range of Iranian missiles. So those are the things which Iran has been working, and then United States also fears that Iran is now working on an extreme long range missile, an intercontinental ballistic missile, which potentially can even go to some of the US assets, and that is causing a lot of difficulty in the American government and the American military system. So Iran's drone plus missile technology remains sort of a, it's not the world leader, but it's amongst the top five countries. In fact, Iranian drones were on a transfer of technology model, were given to Russia, and they are being used against Ukraine.
Kamikaze drones.
Yeah, and we saw one video you might have seen. It's
Yeah.
quite a popular video of one kamikaze drone striking a hotel in Dubai. So they're quite good at that, and I think they've taken the world by surprise. And because of these this hypersonic missile, the fear is that the Iranian engineering might actually be better than what we anticipated, which might translate into their nuclear program accelerating. And that is a real fear for a lot of the Western powers.
Do you see American boots on ground in Iran?
Unlikely. That would lead to a lot of American blood on Iranian ground, and I don't think right now we are in a position. There's no justification to do that, unless Iran does something truly dastardly. Suppose Iran does a small-scale nuclear strike, even a dirty bomb, which is not a perfect nuclear bomb, but it basically is a radiation bomb. Unless Iran does something of that sort for which it is clearly held responsible, I don't see why there would be a justification by the US Congress. See, the US Congress will come into action within this
Yeah.
week, and Trump's hands would increasingly be tied. And he's already got his targets. He was talking about removing the leadership. And the American lingo, it seems like, oh, the leadership has been removed. So why are
Yeah.
you fighting anymore? So now the pressure of the American Congress on Trump would be to find a negotiation on this rather than an escalation on this, unless Iran makes a mistake. Now, very interestingly, if you've seen, Iran has done so many strikes, but the casualty figures because of Iranian strikes have been limited. I don't think it is because of a lack of Iranian precision, but it is exactly due to Iranian precision, where they are not trying to target, massive civilian areas. It's more like a threat rather than an actual sort of a, shoot to kill logic right now.
One last question, Mr. Singh. How long you see this conflict panning out?
I think, see, Iran has already got its back against the wall. It's lost its supreme leader. It's lost its IRGC chief. It's in a position of where it's transitioning now from one supreme leader to another. There's an imminent threat. The Bazaris architecturing a coup. There's an imminent threat. The Republican Guards might take over the government. So Iran is in a bit of stress. I don't think Iran would like this war to continue any longer, and it needs a breathing space. Trump, on the other hand, also would not like this war to continue because
Yeah.
he wants to run away with a victory. He's killed the leader. Now, there's no more thing which he can get. The next thing is regime change, which looks unlikely right now. So Trump has got his basically his golden goal. So with that golden goal, he would like to go into his midterm and say that, look, I've toppled the Venezuelan leader, I've toppled the Iranian leader, and I'm like an international champion now. And that's the November midterm election, the message he wants to go into with so that's Trump's strategy. In that light, I don't see this war going for more than the last time, which was about 12 days or 15 days max, because I think Iran would compromise. Right now, it's in a position where it has to listen to what US is saying. It would be interesting to see who mediates. So whether it'll be Qatar or Oman or maybe China, but somebody has to mediate this settlement between US and Iran. Uh, the other big factor always will remain, what can Iran do in terms of trade? So one of the biggest things, Iran is the world's second largest gas reserve, seventh largest petroleum reserve, oil reserve, and 90% of Iranian oil goes to China at a 10% discount. Trump would not like China to get a 10% discount on anything. So it's also an economic thing between, a new Cold War is emerging. And there are traces of that Cold War also part of this action.
I'll just conclude this session, sir. But before that, I want your very concise opinion on what will be the cascading effect if something happens in Strait of Hormuz.
So that'll be huge. If though US was very cautious to put a destroyer fleet and also a shallow water destroyer fleet, because there's Iranian waters are shallow near its coast. So it has put both the kinds of fleet to combat any attempt by Iran to either do missile strikes on moving merchant ships. US has been very cautious to not make it into an economic impact. However, if Iran is able to close down or even temporarily close down
Yeah.
or slow down the traffic at Gulf of Hormuz or the Strait of Hormuz, the international impact would be immense. Then the oil prices will spike, commodities move through that, oil moves through that, energy of all kinds, gas moves through that. And that would have a huge impact, at least in the short run, on global markets. You will see that impact tomorrow when the stock market opens on the 2nd of March. We might we'll definitely probably see oil prices being very extremely volatile. We may also see precious metal, which are sort of cushion for any conflict. Also, their prices rise. All those things are there, but these are all temporary factors because this war is not a war of two equals. We know who's going to win this war. We know who's going to lose this war, and it's only a matter of on what terms this war ends.
Well, it's a matter of terms and a matter of time. Let's see what happens in this war. But thank you so much, Mr. Singh, for sharing your views. And perhaps we'll come back to you as and when there are more updates and we want your view on this very subject. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.